In high-income countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia, a quiet contradiction is unfolding beneath the surface of modern financial life. More women than ever are graduating from universities, entering stable careers, and earning consistent salaries that previous generations would have considered financial success. On paper, this should naturally translate into rising wealth, stronger financial independence, and earlier retirement readiness. But when you look beyond income and focus on net worth, investment participation, and long-term financial security, a different picture appears. Many financially intelligent, capable women are still not accumulating wealth at the pace their income would suggest. And the reason is not a lack of intelligence or discipline. It is not even about motivation. It is about a deeper structural mismatch between income, behavior, and the hidden mechanics of wealth creation over time. The fundamental misunderstanding begins with a simple assumption that income automatically creates wealth. In reality, income is only the starting input. Wealth is not built through earning alone, but through how consistently and effectively that income is transformed into assets that grow over time. Income is linear. You exchange time for money, and that relationship resets every month. Wealth, however, is exponential. It requires compounding, and compounding only works when three things remain intact: time, consistency, and uninterrupted participation in growth systems. This is where most people unknowingly disconnect from financial progress. They assume that once they are earning a good salary, they are automatically on a path to financial freedom. But salary is not the system. It is simply fuel. The system is what you do with that fuel over time. Mainstream financial advice often simplifies this process into basic instructions. Save a percentage of your income, avoid debt, invest regularly, and think long-term. While none of this is incorrect, it misses the deeper reality of how financial systems actually operate. Institutional investors do not rely on motivational discipline. They operate on structural advantages: timing, liquidity control, risk distribution, and behavioral inefficiencies in retail decision-making. In contrast, individuals are expected to rely on willpower and consistency alone, without understanding how psychological patterns shape financial outcomes. This creates a silent imbalance, because when life becomes uncertain or emotionally demanding, behavior shifts away from structure and toward comfort. Investments are delayed until the right time. Cash is held longer than necessary for a sense of safety, and market participation becomes reactive instead of consistent. But financial systems do not wait for emotional readiness. They reward continuity, not hesitation. Over time, even small delays in investing, small interruptions in contributions, or cautious pauses during volatility compound into significant differences in long-term wealth accumulation. Human psychology plays a major role in this process. People do not evaluate financial risk logically in real time. Instead, they interpret volatility as loss, even when no actual loss has occurred. A temporary decline in portfolio value triggers discomfort that feels urgent, even if the long-term trajectory remains intact. This emotional response is not a flaw. It is how the human brain is wired. But in financial systems, this wiring creates inefficiency. It causes people to exit investments too early, hold too much cash, or delay entering the market during uncertainty. And each of these decisions, while emotionally understandable, reduces exposure to long-term compounding growth. Over years, these small behavioral adjustments accumulate into a large financial gap. A person earning a stable high income but repeatedly delaying investment participation can end up significantly behind someone with a lower income who simply remained consistently invested over time. This is because compounding does not just reward money, it rewards time, and it punishes interruption. Even a 5-year delay in consistent investment behavior does not just remove 5 years of contributions. It removes 5 years of exponential growth that those contributions would have generated. At the same time, another force quietly reshapes financial outcomes: lifestyle expansion. As income increases, spending patterns tend to expand almost invisibly. This is rarely dramatic or reckless. Instead, it is gradual and normalized. A slightly better living environment, more convenient spending, improved travel experiences, each decision feels justified individually, but collectively they absorb a large portion of the increased income. This creates a situation where higher earnings do not translate into higher net worth, because the financial surplus is quietly redirected into lifestyle stability rather than long-term assets. This is why many high-income individuals reach a point where they feel confused about their financial position. From the outside, their income suggests they should be financially ahead, but internally their net worth does not reflect that expectation. This disconnect creates a subtle but persistent psychological tension. the feeling of earning more without feeling richer. And that feeling is often the first sign that income and wealth systems are not aligned. Another important layer appears when examining financial behavior across different life paths. Women, on average, tend to exhibit strong, long-term financial thinking and lower participation in high-risk speculative behavior compared to men. This often leads to more stable financial decisions and fewer extreme losses. However, when combined with common life patterns such as career interruptions, caregiving responsibilities, or delayed entry into aggressive investment phases, it can create a delayed compounding effect. The outcome is not necessarily weaker wealth creation, but slower acceleration during the most powerful phase of compounding, early adulthood. This is where time becomes the most critical factor in wealth building. Two individuals can earn the same salary across their lifetime, but if one begins consistent investing at 25 and the other begins at 35, the final difference in wealth is not linear, it is exponential. The earlier individual allows compounding to operate for a longer period uninterrupted, which creates a multiplier effect that is extremely difficult to replicate later through higher income alone. This is one of the most underestimated realities in personal finance. Timing often outweighs effort. As we step back, it becomes clear that financial outcomes are not determined by income alone, but by the interaction of three forces: behavior, time, and structure. Behavior determines how much of income is converted into productive assets. Time determines how long those assets are allowed to grow. Structure determines whether the process remains consistent or gets interrupted by emotional or lifestyle decisions. When these three elements align, wealth creation becomes almost automatic over time. When they do not, even high earners can remain financially stagnant despite appearing successful on the surface. One of the most overlooked factors in this entire system is what can be called behavioral taxation. This refers to the hidden cost of financial decisions that feel safe in the moment but reduce long-term growth. Holding excess cash due to uncertainty, postponing investment decisions until conditions feel perfect, or frequently adjusting financial strategies based on short-term emotional reactions all feel rational individually, but in aggregate, they reduce exposure to long-term compounding systems. And reduced exposure means reduced exponential growth. There's also a deeper informational gap that reinforces these behaviors. Most financial content is designed to simplify complexity rather than reveal structure. It tells people what to do, but rarely explains how systems behave over long time horizons. This creates a gap between knowledge and execution. People understand basic financial principles yet still struggle to implement them consistently over decades. And it is within this gap that most wealth divergence quietly forms. Ultimately, staying broke despite earning a good salary is not a mystery of intelligence. It is a consequence of how income interacts with behavior inside a system that rewards consistency over intensity and timing over effort. Wealth is not created through isolated financial decisions. It is created through uninterrupted participation in compounding systems long enough for time to do its work. And this leads to a final reflection. If financial outcomes are primarily shaped by time inside compounding systems, then every financial decision today is not just about money. It is about positioning yourself in time. The real question is not how much you are earning right now, but how early and how consistently your money is working for you without interruption. Because wealth does not usually disappear suddenly. It diverges quietly. And by the time most people notice the gap, it has already been forming for years in the background of everyday financial decisions. And so, the question becomes unavoidable. What would your financial trajectory look like if, starting today, no emotional decision interrupted your compounding for the next decade?